Right, well good morning everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. Today we've had a little shuffle in our presenters. So instead of Barry Martin presenting on our PayFocus solution, we have Andrea Halbert. Andrea is a senior Microsoft Dynamics NAV consultant for Dialogue and she has over 20 years experience in this area, and she was just telling me she's 13 years at Dialogue, so she's quite knowledgeable. After Andrea's presentation, we'll have Matthew French from Subscribe HR present. Now, Matthew is the CEO and founder of Subscribe HR. He has over 15 years experience in the HR software industry and global leading pioneer of HR cloud software development. So without further ado, here's Andrea to present on our PayFocus solution for Microsoft Dynamics NAV. Thanks, Andrea.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry about that, just was experiencing some technical issues. So thank you, Nicole, for the introduction. So I don't need to introduce myself. However, I may have had some dealings with many of you who are attending the webinar this morning, so thank you very much for your time. For today's agenda, I'm going to commence with a PowerPoint slide just to give you an idea of what we're going to be discussing this morning and what's going to be presented to you. Please feel free, there is a little chat box on the GoToMeeting taskbar, so please feel free to post any questions in that area, and we will, Nicole and I will endeavour to get back to you as promptly as possible relating to your questions. So hopefully you can see my screen okay. We've got the presentation slide. So I'm just navigating through to the next slide, and essentially what will be, sorry about that. Let me just click this doesn't seem to occur. Okay. So our agenda for today is I'm going to discuss talking about some of the Subscribe HR and PayFocus feature and benefits, as Nicole has advised. Matthew French will be providing you with a software overview of the Subscribe HR solution. I will then perform a brief overview of the PayFocus module. So for those of you who are on the webinar, PayFocus is a name that we've given to the Dynamics NAV payroll that Dialogue has developed. It has been out in the market now since 1998, so we're closely reaching nearly 20 years out in the marketplace, and hopefully some of your attendees are using the product. But so if I do make any mention to PayFocus, I'm actually referring to the Dynamics NAV payroll. We will look at some of the solution capabilities, including a quick software demonstration, and then I will hand you over to Matthew French, who will provide you with a Subscribe HR presentation. So some of the partnership features, or the solution features, if you like, we offer an integrated solution that's been offered to our clients as an end-to-end solution to help you manage your employees. So if you're currently a user of the PayFocus module and you have a look at the HR component that's contained within the Dynamics NAV product, you'll realise that whilst it provides very basic information, well, Subscribe HR replaced that. So some of the features that Matthew will be showing you today, in particular, are talent management, e-recruitment, onboarding and offboarding. So that solution will help you manage that side of that process, that HR process. Where it also offers an employee self-service. So, and obviously some of the benefits of deploying a self-service module is employees can update their information such as bank, tax and superannuation details. So that can be at the employee actually logging into the portal and maintaining that information for you. That information will flow back through into the PayFocus module. Another feature available to the employees is being able to retrieve pay slips and payment summaries. So on posting of payrolls and the production of the payment summaries, they are then published to the actual portal so that the employee may retrieve them. As well as that, the last feature or main feature of the portal is being able to submit leave and timesheets for processing. So if you have any of those requirements within your organisation, then they can be all managed through the Subscribe HR software. So just looking at some of the benefits now, I've just got to wait for the PowerPoint to catch up. So some of the benefits of the Subscribe HR and PayFocus offering is that it's one system providing a fully integrated business solution company-wide. So what that essentially means is having a tightly integrated system, it reduces the amount of paperwork and provides you with a single point entry of data. So whether that be your employees actually logging into the portal or your HR manager managing the recruitment process or the onboarding and offboarding process, that can all be done within the Subscribe HR module, and that information flows through to PayFocus. Another benefit is that you decide the master-slave relationship, so to accommodate and suit your business needs. So an example of that might be you may decide that Subscribe HR contains a source of truth, or alternatively that PayFocus will that contains the source of truth. So we can have information flowing backwards and forwards, and you make the decision that's relative to your business. It has complete integration with the Dynamics NAV and Microsoft Office, okay, which you're probably already enjoying those benefits using the Dynamics NAV product. So you'll continue to have that that type of feature. It ensures compliance with all legislative requirements. So from an HR perspective, as I mentioned, there are some other areas that Matt will focus on through his presentation that are particular to HR, and then we also have the PayFocus module that's also compliant with regards to legislation. Having an integrated solution reduces the time and cost involved in system training and payroll processing, and it's adaptable to your unique business processes, enhancing your company's competitive edge. So what that essentially means is, although payroll is predominantly a very generic process, if there was for some reason something unique to your business, it can be adapted to meet those requirements. So now if I have a look at PayFocus at a glance, so some of the specific modular features or granular features contained within the PayFocus module is the ability to update employee information. So with the integrated solution, as I said before, the employee can update their info via the portal. We offer pay rate management, electronic pay slips, so they can be now published to the portal and still emailed to your employees. The absence leave management area, within Subscribe HR, you'll have the benefit of being able to lodge leave, and we will have a look at a slide in relation to specific details around leave. There's a terminations area, the audit trail we use from a change log perspective. We have flexible pay periods, so they again will either suit, again, set up to suit your particular business requirements. So if you have payroll entities and have that all managed within one single NAV company, we provide you with the ability to do that. There's allowances and deductions, superannuation. It's Australian tax and legislative compliant, as well as SuperStream compliant. We offer EFT payments as you would expect. There's timesheet entry and integrations area contained in the module as well. Payment summaries, work cover. So there's a whole raft of, I guess, very generic payroll processes, what you would expect to see in a normal payroll office. These are all accommodated for within the PayFocus module. Okay, so I'm just going to move on to the next slide now. Okay, so what we're offering is one solution and a single user interface. So I hope that that's very clear as part of those benefits. So if I move into the base payroll functions, so if we have a look at some of the base payroll functions, we offer a full secure audit log functionality. So leveraging off the change log, you have the capability of being able to identify which master control files and which employee tables that you wish to perform audits on. So essentially what that will do is track any changes that you make to any of those tables that you identify. We have comprehensive employee master file data. So unlike some other systems, you will always have access to that data. So whether the employee is terminated, and that also includes transactional history. So unlike some other systems where you may need to do a backup before you do an end-of-year process, that information will always be available to you because essentially it's date-driven. You have the ability to make use of unlimited history maintained for pay rates. So that just means you can have a log of all of the different pay rates that an employee may receive over the duration of their tenure with your organisation, superannuation, deductions and allowances. There's unrestricted payroll costing transactions history. So what that, excuse me, what that means is you have the capability of being able to cross-charge employees' expenses through to various different cost centres or dimensions, or if you're using the jobs module, it can also be allocated that way as well. The product supports auto pays and timesheet exceptions. So auto pays in reference to salaried employees. Timesheet exceptions could be, an example of those could be for your casual employees who submit timesheets, or any leave that's actually requested as well. That's what I would consider as a timesheet exceptions. Supports multi-company payrolls and ledgers. So as I was explaining before, if your business has multiple payrolling entities, they can be set up within one NAV company, and what that alleviates is actually having to maintain master payroll control data in multiple companies. And also we provide the flexible pay run processing options. So an example of that might be if you need to process off-cycle payments, they can be done at any point in time during the pay period. So next, we'll have a look at the security. So the payroll module is secure. It leverages off the roles and permissions that the Dynamics NAV product offers, as well as we have our own security that's built into the module itself. So an example of that might be if you're a supervisor and you need to have a look at tax file numbers, that can be configured in such a way to give you the ability to see that. And you can also restrict access by branch and division combinations. Okay, so moving along into the allowance and deductions area. So we allow for multiple allowances and deductions to be maintained for employees. So we support all categories of allowances, including before tax, after tax and tax adjustments. And if you have any peculiar or specific allowance calculations that need to be performed on other transactions, we also provide assistance with that and a way of being able to calculate that information. Deductions can be based on a fixed value, percentage, a rate per hour, a unit, or once-off deductions. So there's many ways of which you can set the deductions up, and you can also order the priority of a deduction. So as an example, if you had child support and that needed to be deducted first, then you can set that to behave in that manner. There's a full transaction pay history of all employee allowances and deductions, which is available to be viewed from the employee ledger entry. So some of your experienced users out there can probably attest to the information is all available on the employee ledger entry table. And deduction payments can be linked to either the NAV vendors or to a customer. So the area in which you would attach the customer is if, I mean the example, sorry, that I'll use for that explanation is the employee can be a customer of yours who may make some purchases from your organisation, and through payroll you can make deductions and actually have those deduction payments offset against that customer record. So it's quite flexible from that perspective. So moving on to the superannuation support. So PayFocus provides the ability to define unlimited superannuation funds for your employees. Okay, as well as we provide for defined benefit funds as well. That's coming out in the next release, and that'll be available to you. So that'll give you the ability of being able to enter in defined benefit amounts if your organisation has that superannuation arrangement. The PayFocus ensures that it's legislatively compliant to calculate superannuation for casual employees. So an example there again, and particularly prominent in the hospitality industry, where you have casuals who are under the age of 18 years, where you may have the rules as per the ATO where they must actually meet the minimum worked hours. So we have the capability of calculating out that information for you. You can define superannuation contributions as a fixed amount or as a percentage of earnings, as well as before and after tax. So if it's a salary sacrificed option or a non-concessional amount such as an employer contribution, then they can be configured and set up and maintained on the employee's record. Full transactional superannuation history is available to you via the ledger, as you would expect, and there's also integration into the NAV vendors to generate superannuation fund payments. So that information can automatically be posted through to the vendor either after you post your payroll or at the end of month. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk about leave management. So from a leave management perspective, PayFocus provides you the ability to configure unlimited leave types. They can be recorded. Leave files can be entered in manually into a pay journal or via a file that can be imported. So if you're using a third-party system to capture that leave type of information, that file can be imported into the journal for processing. Or with the Subscribe HR self-service module, you can use the online leave apps. So that will allow your employees to enter in leave, to submit leave, and then it would go through the standard workflow process of having the manager approve that leave, and on approval it gets sent to payroll for processing. Where the leave management area also allows for unlimited leave provision rules, so leave can be calculated based on hours worked or days worked. It could also be in terms of service, length of service. You can have leave calculated as part of length of service. So those are some of the areas, as well as RDO and toll banking, if that's something that your organisation offers, that can also be accommodated for within the PayFocus area. So moving forward to timesheets and integration. Timesheeting, PayFocus supports timesheets being entered against the employee for both payroll and job costing purposes. Okay, so our integration benefits, and sorry, I should have probably raised this at the beginning of my presentation. The integration benefits, we currently are integrated into the general ledger. So on posting the journal, it will go and update the general ledger as well as the sub-ledgers. There's integration into vendors, obviously to make vendor payments such as superannuation or any deduction payments. The customer integration, as I explained before, where an employee has deductions and they offset their customer account, as well as job integration. So jobs allows you to obviously record the job number that an employee has worked at, and on posting the payroll it will then go and update that job record for job costing purposes. Now in terms of retrieving or having that data entered into PayFocus, we accept obviously manual timesheets. That's where your officer is actually keying in the data. We have the capability of importing from third-party TNA systems, so that's where the timesheets are interpreted as per award conditions in a time and attendance system. We have the capability of being able to receive that timesheet from an import, as well as offering of the Subscribe HR online timesheets management. So again, a similar process, employee log the timesheet goes through into a workflow approval process to the manager, is approved, and once it's approved it can then flow through into PayFocus for payment processing. So moving forward onto the next slide, I'm going to talk about terminations. So there is a termination wizard that's available within the PayFocus product. It's under the payroll processing. It's designed essentially to calculate a termination payment or any unused leave component. So there are some configuration around that where we recalculate long service leave, we pick up the annual leave balances, and the wizard actually does the calculation of tax for you. So if you have employees that are entitled to lump sum payments on termination, particularly if they're made redundant or they retire, it has the capability of working out and assessing which tax component to apply to that payment. It'll provide you with the capability of entering in employee termination payment information as well, so and applying the tax to that. On an annual basis we will send you an update, generally around May or June, with regards to ETP tax threshold updates. So that information is released to you and you're asked to set that up, and the wizard uses the details of that information to work out what the appropriate tax is. Through the wizard you can simulate what termination pays look like. You can print a report which contains a breakdown of each of the components relative to the termination pay that you can use for internal purposes, or you release to the employee advising them that this is what their final pay will look like. So if that's something that you haven't actually explored, feel free to contact the response desk and we will endeavour to issue some documentation with regards to that area. So moving on to the next slide, another generic business process of payroll is, I'm just waiting for this slide to catch up, sorry. Another generic business processes which you'll all be familiar with are end of month and end of year processes. So I've grouped this slide together just to talk at a very high level about some of the capabilities of the PayFocus solution. So we have a range of end of year and end of month activities to meet your company's obligations. So you have the capability of being able to update provision accounts for leave and work cover liabilities. So there are two separate processes that you can run to update your expense and provision accounts. We provide the capability of calculating payroll tax. So there is a report, there is a report available to help you with your payroll tax obligations. We also offer grouping, so the system can be configured if you have companies grouped for payroll tax purposes. We update and create payments for payroll vendors, so that path that automatically updates the vendors with the appropriate information. So that again reduces having to pass remittance advice off to our AP team and asking them to create payment invoices against vendors. That information automatically gets posted through to the vendors. We produce payment summaries independently of payroll being processed. So this is, I guess, a very good feature of the product, mainly because when you get to the end of the financial year and you've gone through and reconciled your payment summaries, generally people are crunched for time around that period, and it being such a busy time of the year, you have the ability of being able to produce a payroll in the next financial year without running your payment summaries. So you don't lose any history, you don't you're not required to perform a backup, and we do have an online webinar session that's held annually just to give our clients an update and a refresher on what's required for the end of year in order to produce payment summaries. So that being one of the main features is that there's no hard close, and you can rerun them, I guess, on the 14th of July when they're actually due. So there are no restrictions there. You can publish payment summaries to the employee self-service portal within the Subscribe HR module, and obviously that will help your active employees be able to access that information so that you no longer have to send payment summaries out via snail mail, or alternatively, if your employee agrees, they can receive that payment summary via email. So that's just to talk about some of the features within the PayFocus product. Now moving across to the next slide, my last slide is really about what type of options are available to you. So I'll just wait for this slide to catch up. So that the type of offerings that the Pay Solution Focus has and Dialogue are offering is that the product can obviously be in-house, so that's where you've got the database on site. We can, PayFocus can be installed onto your environment for you to use. There's also the SaaS Plaza option where it sits in the cloud. Everyone's talking about clouds these days, so that's that option. And the last option, which may be new to all of you, is Dialogue offer a managed service, managed payroll service offering. So what that does is that takes away you having to process the payroll yourself, and that's primarily done in our office, our head office in Brisbane. So if you're interested in that offering, please feel free to contact Nicole, and she'll pass on the details and someone will be in touch with you accordingly. Now, I actually have half an hour, and looking at the time, I've hit my 11:30. Now, ordinarily I would come in and show you a bit of the product, but I think I will actually hand over to Matthew French now, just so that he can get you familiar and showing you what the Subscribe HR model looks like. So I'll hand back to Nicole, and I apologise that I haven't been able to go through the software, but yeah, it's just through because of time constraints. I will hand you back to Nicole, who will put you on to Matthew French at Subscribe HR. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for that, Andrea. Now we're just going to swap over, so just bear with us for a minute or two as we change over so that Matthew can present. It'll just be a moment.
Okay.
Hi, it's Matt here. Thanks, Andrea. Am I able to be heard?
Yep, you're all good, Matt. We're ready to go. Thank you.
Fabulous, thank you. Okay, so you should be able to see our website in front of you. And basically on the top folder of our website, we have defined our core value proposition for our target market, which is generally human resource managers or people managers. But not only that, we do we do touch many various areas of the business through the process automation that the Subscribe HR product does. So before I take you through this slide, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of the company. Subscribe HR was founded in 2010. We were basically the global pioneer of HR cloud computing in the world. The platform that we have is an extremely configurable platform, which basically means that we can make quite significant changes in the platform based on your requirements with minimal impact on the product and making sure that the changes are cost effective. We have about 100 customers in Australia. We are an Australian company. Some of those customers have international reach. Most of them deploy Subscribe HR around Australia. We have about 30,000 users using our product each year. Now, just to draw your attention to the slide, we are a HR automation and culture creation cloud, and we work very closely with Dialogue and PayFocus. So these points that are outlined here in this slide are really based on giving our audience a very quick snapshot of how they can achieve their return on investment from our product as quickly as possible. So the PayFocus integration is obviously a very important part of what we do here, and I'll go into the integration points as we move through this slide. Starting with the first point, which is applicant sourcing and selection. So basically what we have is a job board which you can load vacancies out to your corporate website and allow for applicants to apply for vacancies and have those applications tracked automatically. We integrate with the main job boards like Seek, Adzuna, Career One, and Indeed. And we also offer referral rewards programs through functionality that allows employees and people who are coming to your job board to share vacancies with their friends and have those referrals tracked. So when the applicant is being transferred through the recruitment process, we communicate with those applicants automatically by SMS and emails to make sure that those applicants are dealt with in a very professional manner, which obviously has an impact on the company's brand. There are some key integration or automation points rather. For example, we allow for applicant interviews to be managed automatically, so you can actually send a bunch of interview time slots to people who are at the interview stage and have those people select interview time slots automatically from Subscribe HR. And also when you move an applicant to the contract sign-off stage, you can send contracts automatically to the applicants and get them to digitally sign off on those contracts online. So the amount of compliance that is achieved and the amount of automation, which is the HR automation, which is reducing the amount of time that managers, HR are spending on performing actions or communicating with people, is greatly reduced so that they can be focusing on core business and strategy. We also have recently deployed or released a background checking facility with another business partner of ours called Verify CV, and that allows us to send background check information automatically to that company for the background checks to be conducted seamlessly online. So it actually does the check and then loads the results back to Subscribe HR so you can see those when those checks are completed. Now, when you hire the best candidates or the best people for the roles that you've advertised, we can transfer those new employee details across to PayFocus, the Dialogue system. So there's no duplication of data entry, which is extremely important in the fact that you don't want to be keying details into separate systems, which obviously takes time, interferes with streamline of processing, and can result in the data in separate systems being inaccurate, which obviously is not great when you want to go and run reports. So when an applicant is turned into an employee, we will send that data across, and at that point there are onboarding tasks triggered. So the whole point here is you're collecting more details based on tax deck and super choices sign off. So we actually have forms that will send to the employees automatically where they can fill this data in online. Now any of the data that's captured in these forms, the tax deck and super choices forms, that data also sends through to PayFocus. We also have other onboarding processes which are automated, so any other forms or videos that you want sent to your employees as part of the onboarding process, we can automate that, as well as sending out checklists to people who perhaps need to do things before the start date of the employee, for example, or after the start date of the employee. There is also a company policy sign-off feature which allows you to get employees to automatically open company policies, read them and acknowledge them. So that's for new employees and existing policies, and also for existing employees and new policies. Now if you want to conduct onboarding surveys, we have a surveying tool which is embedded into the product, so you can deploy any type of survey right across the employee life cycle. For example, for applicants, you can survey them, or you can get them to answer questionnaires through the recruitment process, and the surveying tool will actually score that candidate and match them to the relevance of their experience in relation to the position. But from an employee perspective, you can, for example, if you wanted to, run onboarding surveys, probation surveys, new starter surveys, and so on. Now the payroll integration with PayFocus is very tight in that it will seamlessly pass the data that we're mentioning from one system to the other, and as Andrew mentioned, you can actually decide which way that information flows. But if you're using Subscribe HR, of course when you hire someone, that's the first trigger for the sending of the information across into the payroll system. Now when an employee wants to, for example, request leave, that leave request will be processed in Subscribe HR, and then once it's authorized, that leave request can be sent across for the payroll, for the payroll to be run at the relevant point in time. Now, accruals can also be mapped and integrated if something that you want to do. So when, for example, the payroll is run, the accruals can be calculated in PayFocus, and we can get those, or we can calculate the accruals in Subscribe HR. There's a choice there in terms of where you want those accruals to be calculated. Payment summaries, they can be posted in Subscribe HR from Dialog. So when an employer or manager logs into the system, they're able to access those payslips and payment summaries. And the other areas of integration are, for example, timesheets, which Andrea mentioned, superannuation details which are captured from self-service or from the Super Choices sign-off form, and bank details. So, for example, if you want employees to be able to go in and update their bank account details in the self-service area in Subscribe HR, then that can be integrated into PayFocus. The last 2 points that we're looking at is performance management and offboarding. So we have a performance management solution in the system which caters for your more traditional performance reviews, which is your quarterly reviews, half-yearly, annual reviews, and we also have the capability to manage a buzzword called real-time recognition and feedback. So we've got a solution that has integrated those two philosophies, which can be deployed seamlessly and quite instantly across the business, greatly reducing the amount of time that your employees and managers are spending on performance reviews. And the last point is the offboarding. So when someone leaves, we can set up offboarding checklists, we can get company property back from the employees, we can communicate with PayFocus, and if you wanted to also set up Active Directory or single sign-on capabilities, if someone leaves, we can automatically, for example, deactivate the user credentials in your Active Directory setup, for example, which will deactivate those users. So that's the core value proposition of the product. Some of the customers that we have at the moment that are using this system include Kiki K, large retailer, Crawford & Company, carsales.com.au, Bankstown Council, East Gippsland Council and Palmerston Council. Now what I want to do, keeping an eye on time because I have about 15 minutes left, is I just want to show you the system very quickly from a high level so you can get a feel for the interface, which is designed using specific principles and parameters to make sure that the product is easy to use, which means it will get used effectively, and there's a minimal requirement for training to actually get users to uptake the solution. Now if you want to take a 7-day free trial of the product, you can click this button at the top of the website, submit your details, and you'll be instantly sent login details to your 7-day free trial. Now that free trial has demonstration data in it, so you can play around with that, submit records and do what you like with that 7-day free trial. So the first point that I'll show you is the applicant sourcing, which is basically the e-recruitment portal, and this is Kiki K. This is Subscribe HR embedded into the careers page of Kiki K. So it is mobile responsive, so if someone wants to apply for a vacancy via mobile phone, it will respond to that mobile device, and applicants can apply for vacancies using their mobile phones. Now, of course, you can, as I said, you can load out to Seek, for example. When an applicant clicks on Seek, they'll be automatically taken back to Subscribe HR so they can apply for that vacancy seamlessly online. Now that's the more traditional focus of recruitment, but to allow our customers to reduce, and dialogue customers to reduce the time to hire and cost of hire, what we've done is we've allowed for referral rewards to be sent automatically, so you can send new vacancy information to your employees and they can share the vacancies with their friends, which allows you to tap into what we call passive candidate pools, or you can have people who are coming to your website aware that you're offering referral rewards, and they can use these tools at the top here to share with their friends, and they'll track the referral process in Subscribe HR. The other thing is the job alerts. So if someone comes to your job board and there's no current vacancies there that interest them, you're not losing the opportunity to interact with that person because they can actually set up job alerts, and we will send out alerts to those people when a vacancy comes up that matches their profile. So the whole idea is that the applicant submits their application, it's tracked within Subscribe HR, they can log into the portal to see all of the information about their application, so they can see where their applications are at, what status it is. If they're incomplete, if they haven't completed their application, they can do that themselves. So it's a self-service tool for applicants. Now, in the job board, they will be able to select their interview time slots and also sign off on their contracts. So that's where we interact initially. That's the first touch point that an applicant starts using Subscribe HR. So right through these different points, all the way up to contract sign-off, what we're looking at there, if I log into the actual administration modules of the solution, so these are the core modules that are usually used by managers or employees or your core HR team. So you'll see here that I'm logged in as a system administrator, so I can basically see and do everything in the system, but you have the opportunity to deploy different groups. So you can actually select any of the functionality within the system and actually deploy it around the organisation. So that's really about true HR automation, because you can allow anyone in the business to interact with information or a process from within the application. Now the modules that we have are up here on the right hand side. So we've got the recruitment module, which we'll have a look at in a second. We've got Share, which is our surveying tool, the development tool, which is a tool that allows you to make changes to the interface and the system itself. So you can very easily go in and update the system using this particular tool. Performance management, which is quite self-explanatory, which is the traditional performance management, so the quarterly, annual, biannual reviews, and the real-time recognition and feedback. Now if we jump over to the recruitment solution, you'll see that there is also a dashboard, so you can deploy this recruitment solution to managers if you want to and have them responsible for processing applicants for vacancies. Okay, so you'll see at the top here in these folders you've got applicants and vacancies. So in recruitment it's all about applicants and vacancies, whereas in the HR module it's about employees and jobs. So if we look at a vacancy, open that up, and we look at the CEO vacancy, you'll see that there's a form with all of the main vacancy details in it. Now the main area for managing the applicants is this Manage tool. So we'll jump to that, and you'll see that all of the applicants that you want to process are here ready to be processed based on what we call recruitment workflows. Now those workflows can be defined per vacancy, so you can actually process applicants particular to a particular vacancy based on how you want to do that. Second, you can have a acknowledgement, interview 1, interview 2, offer, and then employee. And those particular steps are defined here on the right hand side. Now for the purpose of really focusing on the PayFocus integration, what happens is, if you've managed the interviews, you've sent the contracts, you've found who you want to hire after reviewing all the details for the applicant, you can create that person as a new employee, and then that new record, once you action it, will be transferred. You can actually transfer it across to the HR module. Now that on conducting that transfer, it will copy those employee or the applicant details over into the HR module and integrate with PayFocus in terms of updating the employee master file. Now, in the human resource side of things, when the person logs in for the first time into the HR module, which is will be their self-service environment, they can do a number of processing options here. So, for example, you can get the person, the new employee, to actually complete their tax deck form online. So they can actually complete that online. Once it's done, you can actually automatically upload it to the ATO using your OS key. So that's all automated from within the HR side of the solution. The same with super choices. You can actually fill out those super choices forms online, or the employee can. And those super choices forms, at the moment the ATO doesn't have a direct feed option, but what it does allow you to do is capture the information automatically, then print that documentation quickly so you can post it off to the ATO, which is still going to save you a huge amount of time in terms of the time you'd be spending on administration if you weren't using this type of solution. So some of the other onboarding areas, as I mentioned before, are the company policy sign-off. So you can prompt employees to read off, open company policies and agree to them. It'll automatically stamp that they've opened and agreed. So once again, it's saving a huge amount of time on this processing of employee information and compliance. So that's going to save it's going to make the employees' experience when they come into the organisation more enjoyable, and it's going to reduce the amount of time for managers and human resources, of course. Now, the other areas of this integration with PayFocus, one of the key ones is the requesting of leave. So employees can come here and request leave online. That leave request can be routed through an authorisation process. Managers, when they view the leave request, can look at the absence planner to authorise the leave in a more informed fashion if they want to. And then once that leave request is authorised, it will be updated, of course, into the payroll system. So any of the functionality that you see here can be deployed to the different groups that you have set up in the system. So I'll just open up the employee master file. So we'll look at Peter's record. So if you want Peter as an employee to see his absence details, you can open up access to him for him to do that. If you want Peter to be able to put his own bank details in, then of course you can open up access in Subscribe HR to be able to do that for the information to flow across into PayFocus. So any of these subfolders that you see here are able to be deployed through the system through the self-service functionality. So any of the canvases or the surveys that are answered by employees, all of that data is stored directly online, centrally in the Subscribe HR system. So obviously from a reporting perspective, all the information can be reported on, and we have our own report writing system which allows you to easily run reports from Subscribe HR, and once those reports are set up, you can insert them into your dashboard. Reports can also be picked up automatically and sent out to relevant users using the report writer scheduling tool. So you see incident tracking. If you want employees to be able to submit incidents, you can do that. The other integration with PayFocus is here: leave balances, leave profiles, company property, of course. You can track property against the employee, and when they leave, you can get notifications that they need to return the property. Salary information, which is, of course, an integration into PayFocus. Timesheets, once again, is an integration into the payroll system. Just keeping an eye on time, we've got a couple of minutes left. So just wanted to scroll down here and show you the reports. As I said, you can actually insert reports into your dashboard. The information in here is real-time information, so it updates as things are happening, and you can drill down from the report itself and go into the report writer. So what it's basically doing is allowing you to visualize data really quickly, which is really important with decision making. So you can set up reports to show you certain things that you want to, whether it be a risk, whether it be something good that's happening. So you can see that information in real time and then make informed decisions quickly. Now the share tool is a surveying tool. So this is the tool where you can actually set up questionnaires, and you can deploy those questionnaires right across the employee lifecycle. So so you'll see here that there's a number of different what we call canvases, but they're surveys. So if I actually open up one of these surveys, you'll see that there are questions built into the survey itself. And those questions will be responded or answered. They will be answered by whether it be an end user, whether it be an applicant or an employee. You can also use this tool to engage suppliers. So if it's someone who's not necessarily an employee, they can also be included in the survey. So this is where we actually set up the probation surveys, the performance review surveys, the exit surveys, and so on. So it's a very, very powerful configurable tool. We don't necessarily care too much about what you want in terms of the build. What we've done as a technology provider is included all the different types of features that you may, or questions that you may want to automate as part of the surveying process to allow you to go and very easily create these tools, capture information in real time, and then make informed decisions based on what's going on within your employee, your workforce, or whether it be an applicant survey that you set up, allows you to make decisions quickly. So from a performance management perspective, it's the same look and feel. So the interface has been designed using specific principles and parameters. Principles being speed, ease of use and flexibility, and the parameters being that the screens are free from clutter and flashing icons. There's a consistent look and feel throughout each of the modules, and there's specific use of colour for impact. So I'll just show you very quickly employees. So this is the performance management area. This is Peter's performance reviews. So the reviews are built, and then they're deployed automatically based on the triggers that you set up. So whether it be a weekly review, fortnightly review, annual review, quarterly review, and so on. So if we look at reviews, sorry, wrong employee. Just bear with me for a second. French reviews. So each of the reviews are automatically sent into the employee's record. So if you open up the review is defined based on what you want to ask. So is it a 360-degree review? Is it a two-way review? who goes first, who goes second, what is the welcome message, and then the questionnaires or the questions are defined on your process. Sliding scales, up to you. You can use 1 to 5, 1 to 10, words, images, and so on. So that's the more traditional sense. And then we also have the real-time recognition and feedback, which is based on a horizontal approach whereby anyone in the business can give recognition to anyone else. And this happens, as I said, in real time. And that response will automatically be written into the employee's record, so you can use that information in the more traditional review because it's fed through automatically. You can capture it and then use it in real time, which obviously, in comparison to what you may have been doing historically, the issues have been inaccuracy of data, managers and employees being overwhelmed, the review itself being skewed because of the inability to track information right across a period automatically. So historically people have had to use their memory, use emails, and it can be time consuming, stressful, and tedious and inaccurate. So that's 12 o'clock. That's a high-level view of Subscribe HR, details about the integration with PayFocus. I hope you've enjoyed the look of the product and enjoyed finding out more about how we can help you. So I shall hand back to Nicole and Andrea, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for that, Matt. That was fantastic overview and insight into Subscribe HR. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to send me an email and I can sort of pass them on to either Andrea or Matt as relevant. Also, we will have more webinars coming up over the coming months, so just look out for those emails, and we'll also have a user group. I did send out a save the date the other week, so we have some user groups coming up in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne in April. All right, thanks everyone for attending, and as I said, if you have any questions, please send me an email and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.